Tonight, a special Glenn Beck program, destined to repeat. There are undeniable parallels between what has happened in the past on our planet and what is going on today. And tonight, we're going to cover a lot of them. I hope that you come away from tonight's program with a deeper understanding of how some of the most infamous events in history started with the best of intentions. But first, I want to give you a warning. This show is not about Barack Obama. It's not about George Bush. It's not about the Democrats. It's not about the Republicans. Stop. It's about learning from the past mistakes so we don't repeat them. Having said that, it is going to be remarkably easy to cut this show up, take it out of context, turn it on its head, and use it to claim that I'm making all kinds of comparisons. Did you hear? He said Oscar the Grouch was Hitler. If you can't spend the next hour with me, I'm going to do something in television that I don't think people do very often, and that is, you can't spend an hour with me? Change the channel right now. You know, there's something else you can watch for 15 minutes. This show you cannot. I don't want to play to the lowest common denominator. People have said to me, oh, Glenn, you can't do this show. Please, people are going to take it out of I'm fine. Unlike most politicians, I think you're smart enough to understand what I'm saying. So long as it's in context, I think you do. So let's keep it there. Got it? Okay. If you haven't changed the channel yet, then I assume that you're in for the long haul. So if you believe this country is great, but those who don't understand history or remember it are destined to repeat it, then come, follow me.
You may have seen Glenn Beck and his wild paranoia on your television. He crazily warned of a severe economic downturn 2 years ago, and then outlandishly said that the solution to the downturn would be a socialist path of reckless spending, overt nationalization, and government control.
The global economy has broken down. We need to handle this financial crisis like it's a forest fire.
Sure, he lucked out those 2 times. But now he's talking about fascism? He says it's not Adolf Hitler-style fascism. It's the academic fascism, widely loved in the 1930s on campus and in the media.
Fascism is coming. Like it or not, fascism is on the rise. The government is a heroin pusher, using smiley-faced fascism to grow the nanny state.
What does all of this mean? For some of you, get ready to attack the messenger without listening to the message. For everyone else, it's an hour of fascism. With a happy face. On the Glenn Beck program.
All right, our country is not being controlled by jackbooted fascists. But like I said, during George W. Bush's term, the groundwork is continuously being laid to take us there if the train goes off the tracks. History shows us that it only takes 2 simple things for fascism to rear its ugly head. And it can happen virtually overnight. Fear and hunger. A temporary crisis is almost always a precursor to a much, much more permanent one. So with that in mind, let me show you the 4 main things that we're going to be talking about tonight. First, we're going to take you to Russia, where under communists like Lenin and Stalin, their revolution pitted peasants against the rich, the poor against the wealthy. They were basically saying, eat the rich, they did this to you, get them, kill them. These days, the comparison, demonstrators rioting in front of the G20, unions protesting in front of AIG, an organized mob, buses showing up at the houses of those evil AIG executives. It's a different style, but the sentiments are exactly the same. Find them, get them, kill them. They did this to you. Second, we're going to consider what the average person thinks about fascism. They believe it's ridiculous. Oh, this could never happen in the United States of America. After all, nobody's going to go out and pull the lever for Adolf Hitler. You're right. But the secret we'll learn tonight is fascism wasn't always synonymous with mass murder. Progressives once had a love affair with it, particularly with Mussolini. I don't think this love affair has gone away, although the Mussolini part has. You may remember him as the guy whose body was hung upside down with meat hooks, and I think there was a piano wire involved. Civilians were throwing stones at his body. But before that, he had lots of admirers over there and here as well, including Irving Berlin, Cole Porter, comic Will Rogers, who said, I'm pretty high on that bird. And even, surprise, surprise, the New York Times, which wrote, Mussolini is a Latin Teddy Roosevelt who first acts and then inquires if it is legal. He's been a great service to Italy at home. He was also well respected abroad. Winston Churchill once called Mussolini the greatest living lawmaker. Third, we'll show you how Woodrow Wilson moved from the Founding Fathers' principles and values. You know, we wonder today, how did we get here? Well, we'll show you tonight. Today, those who disparage the strict constructionists as worshiping old men in wigs, oh, those Founding Fathers, they were nuts. They're building on what the progressives started at the top of last century. And the fourth topic tonight is the Great Depression. The world was starving, hunger, and fear. And when the world goes into darkness, it's always based, almost always, on several small events followed by one cataclysmic event. Hitler used the world economic crisis as a pivot point. He said, we're going to protect the common man, and people rallied around Hitler. But before I go through all of these sometimes scary parallels, I want to start by talking about happy fascism. Robert Galately is with us tonight. He is the author of Stalin, Lenin, and Hitler. And we have Jonah Goldberg. He's the author of Liberal Fascism. And Amity Schley's author of The Forgotten Man. Also one other person, R.J. Pestrito. He is the author of a great book, Changed My Perspective on... in fact, all of these people helped change my perspective on things. I hope they do the same for you. Woodrow Wilson and the Roots of Modern Liberalism. Hi, guys. Hey, let's talk fascism. First of all, I guess, Jonah, I want to start with you. Your book is Liberal Fascism, and it's really kind of the first voyage into this world for me. We don't even know our history. George Carlin said, fascism will never come to the United States unless it has a happy face. So tell me about liberal fascism, or the happy face fascism.
Right, well, I mean, I think, first of all, it's important to remember that you're right, that we associate fascism with genocidal racism, right? The Holocaust. And I would not want to diminish the moral power of the Holocaust in the slightest. But what we tend to do is play the movie backwards. And we seem to think that everything that came before the Holocaust is really associated with it. And the reality is, for example, and I'm not saying this to defend Mussolini or Italian fascism, I don't like either, but you know, Jews were overrepresented in the Italian Fascist Party from its founding until 1938, when the Nazis basically had to bully the Italians into dropping them. Mussolini denounced Hitlerite fascism as 100% racism, saying that, you know, we could never have anything to do with it.
He hated it.
Right. And so the idea that fascism means racism is really a glossing over.
My Uncle Leo, I think he's 91. He is from Italy. The family saw what was coming, and so they sent him. He was the only one they sent over to the United States. He fought on our side. He was always at the front of the boat. He landed on the beaches on D-Day. He was always on the front of the boat because they always wondered he's probably a spy, because he was just off the boat. He told me, this is about a month ago, we were in a restaurant and we were talking about fascism, and he said, let me tell you, I don't care what anyone says, oh, Mussolini was a good man. And I'm like, okay, Leo, keep your voice down, will you? I mean, the people in Italy liked him. Why?
They loved him. They thought they thought he was the savior of Italy in many ways. Italy was in a world of chaos. He was one of the first serious youth leaders on the world stage. The Italian fascists considered themselves a youth movement, much as the Nazis did. He was an international
youth movement.
A youth movement. They considered themselves leaders of a new generation that has come up, that were, you know, they were the Pepsi generation of their day. And Mussolini was astoundingly, I think, from our standards today, a sex symbol. When the government needed gold from the people, I think 250,000 housewives sent their gold wedding rings in to be melted down. They were so devoted to the man. And in terms of happy fascism, I think the point here is that fascism, you know, today we seem to think of fascism that, oh, well, you know, during World War II, there were a bunch of people who decided to be villains in World War II movies for the rest of time, and they were the bad guys. But fascism was not seen as that. It was seen as what Anne-Marie Lindbergh called the wave of the future. It was seen as the new model, the new paradigm that could deal with the problems that capitalism and liberal democracy were no longer capable of dealing with.
Let me show you some of these things. This is Time magazine. This is the cover of Time magazine. There's Mussolini. They loved him. Here's Mussolini, not behind bars, you know, like, hey, he's a criminal nut job. They loved Mussolini. Then things started going wrong, and this is when Hitler really did trap him in there. Hitler was crazy from the get-go. But there was also, I want to go to another kind of parallel here, because I personally think that we are, and